GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
All right, welcome everybody to our Tuesday morning coaching conversation that we have been doing here for presumably a year. So we got Clover Tech joining us from Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, good to be here.
You got your GunTuber Academy logo up there. It's been a while since you talked about it on this show. What's GunTuber Academy all
about? Just a way to kind of separate out. I mean, those that have followed the Clover Tech channel for a long time know that we've done a lot of nerdy stuff, talked with other creators, and helped with understanding social media and tech and the platforms and other things pretty much since I've been creating on that channel. And so GunTuber was just the GunTuber Academy was more so just a way to sort of separate that portion from the regular firearm content a little bit, get some distance in between the two for a few reasons. Number one, for algorithmic purposes. I tend to think that as much nerdy talk stuff as I did for so long has hurt me a little bit as far as analytics and algorithms go on the firearm related content. But also I don't like the idea, because nobody should judge a channel and success and all of that type of stuff strictly on numbers. And so had a little bit of that type of stuff going on, like, oh, who are you to give advice? You've only got, X number of subscribers. And that's what's jacked up, is it doesn't matter how many subscribers or views or whatever, or money you make. There's always somebody that's going to say that's not enough, right? And that's the whole point, is that's subjective. So getting away from it. So yeah, just another space over there where, when things important come up. I haven't messed with it too much except for these chats, quite honestly, but I do throw some stuff on the community tab over there from time to time, at least, with updates and things that are going on the YouTube platform. But, more so YouTube centric as well. I talk very little about, other platforms and other ways of creating content and stuff like that. I've become really YouTube centric with that, because that's just what I've spent the vast majority of my time learning and working on and working with.
Right on. Well, this show gives us a chance to get outside of that niche of YouTube. So, right on. Thanks for letting me throw that at you right off the bat here. We got Gizzard out there this morning. Thanks for jumping in. Got Jeff out there, unapologetically armed. Gizzard is saying that it is Prime Day today. So over on Amazon, a couple of times a year, I guess, they do their own special for sales, like their own sale incentive called Prime Day. It's actually 2 days for some reason, 11th and 12th. And imagine there's all kinds of sales over there. I think being a member of Amazon Prime is a benefit. So if you want to sign up for a free 30-day trial, a bunch of us have links to do that. Take advantage of that. It helps us out, helps your wallet out, I guess, if you're about to buy stuff anyway. So
reckon they do that maybe because of like international dateline type stuff.
I don't know if that's because, if you're trying to do a bunch of stuff and it's only a couple of times a year and you make it one day, might as well make it spread over to 2, because, like you said, somebody could misinterpret by an hour or something. So might as well give them 2 days, I guess. I'm not sure, but I haven't watched it evolve that much. But since we've both been doing the Amazon stuff a lot recently, and a bunch of people out there who are joining us, I have as well. I've been letting people know we're having a get together after this show. I'll send out links to anybody who wants to join in, and we'll chat about Amazon stuff, which is fun to do for people who are in that.
That sounds good. Yeah.
I already know that Snob can't because it's during work hours, but it's one of those things. Like if we do it after work hours, a whole bunch of people can't because of family, and then if we do it during work hours, a bunch of people can't. So we'll try to do it, more than once. But right now we're just, picking this time after the show.
Yeah, all we do is throw it out there. Yeah.
That being said, I threw some stuff into the YouTube, I mean, into the robot. And if I can figure out how to open up YouTube over here, if you look at the description of this video, today's topic is future-proofing your content creation. And when I put that into the robot, I got some pretty good stuff back. And then I went to the robot and gave it actually, I don't know if you've been playing with the AI, but with the AI you can, it's all about the what do they call them, prompts that you give it. So you can give it a prompt, but you can also give it a prompt with something like some instructions. And for example, you can tell in the prompt, you can tell the AI, ask me if there's anything you need to know to make in order for you to be able to answer better. So when you do that, and then you answer it, you'll get even better, trying to talk and look at stuff at the same time. You get even better results. So that's what I did is I typed in what we got for the first one here, and then I went through and said, now make that specific to firearms content, and it got even better. And the AI is getting better at understanding, I guess.
One of the things I do with it is I'll ask it something and I'll say, I would like to know, whatever, and here are my parameters, and I'll give it some stuff. And then I'll say, once you give me your answer, I would like to continue to workshop this idea. Right.
Okay.
It's almost like it kicks it into another mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really weird when I put that workshop that I want to workshop things with it. It's like, oh, okay, he wants, we're going to toss ideas around and play with things. And like it sets itself up in that mode to be flexible and change words and change different things around. It's really kind of interesting the way it works.
Well, I guess I'm not finding it. So instead of trying to spend all day finding it, we'll just know that there's some better text out there that maybe I'll find one day. But essentially, I typed in there's something about future-proofing your content. So we're going to, I'll just read what it came up with. Delve deep into the rapidly evolving landscape of digital content creation. As a creator, keeping pace with this changing digital world. It's not optional, it's essential. That we're going to offer valuable insights on the top 3 things you need to be ready for 2023 and beyond, even though we're halfway through it. We'll start by exploring the emergence of new media platforms and content formats, how to adapt to those platforms and create versatile content and engage with your audience in meaningful ways. Emergence of new media platforms and formats. Then we'll demystify the world of data analysis, learning how to interpret data for about the audiences, apply it to your content strategy, and leverage analytical tools to understand the audience better. So that's increased importance of data analysis. And then last, we'll emphasize the importance of authenticity and value in content creation and learn how to hone our voices to deliver content that resonates with our audiences on a deeper level. So focus on authenticity and value. So we'll be talking about tips, strategies to help adapt and thrive in the ever evolving world of content creation, and blah, blah, blah. That's the rest of it. It's just boilerplate. So I kind of glitched over the 3 paragraphs that are about those 3 things. But as far as those 3 things, what do you think? Emergence of new media platforms and formats, importance of data analysis, and focus on authenticity and value. As far as how would you grade the robot on coming up with an approach for future-proofing your content?
I would give it, with my perception of like that question or this topic, I would give it like a C+ or something. I think that within the context of my mind and what I'm thinking of future proofing your content, really the last few things there, that's really the last thing, 1 or 2 things in that list, authenticity and value, and then the tips, strategies, that sort of thing. Um, I think those are vastly more important to get nailed down and get aligned than the emergence of the platforms and analytics and stuff like that. Because if you're doing those latter things, the other stuff that will pretty much fall into place. I mean, yeah, we know that um, we need to be keeping up with other platforms and stuff like that. We've talked about that in the past, and alternative platforms and keeping up with analytics and that sort of thing. But while that is a part of the content creation, to me,
Strategy or
it's not
long-term goals and tactics.
it's not your actual content. So when we're talking about future proofing content, right? Um, so it's just the way I read the thing, and you do have content creation in the title. I realize that, but it's just the way I read it. I was thinking more along the lines of the individual pieces of content themselves rather than the overall catalog or project or channel or account or whatever.
Right on. I'm apt to go, oh wow, the computer really nailed it. But yeah, you bring up a good point that I think I agree with you as far as if you're saying, what's the word, like becoming fluent and not just understanding, but becoming really good at the platforms isn't as important as having something to say on the platforms. And having, if you're future proof, and if you have a goal, if you have a real destination you're trying to get to, and you don't want to let the type of platforms or the type of content or the type of audiences become a factor in that, then if you want to proof yourself to the changes in those, then yeah, I think if you're saying what I think you're saying, that worrying about the nuts and bolts, the applications of your content on the platforms is important, but because it changes so often and it's not crucial to the overall thing, that's subsequential to it. It's necessary, but it's not the primary factor, that it's not all that big a deal to pay attention to these formats, or at least not a third of your time.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting. And then what about the
Not
data
not
analysis?
proportional. Not proportional would be a better way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't really differentiate. The robot just go ahead and said, here's your three things. And that kind of implies they're equally important or something, or at least without any other input. So there's description of that part then is the digital world is fast paced and ever evolving with new platforms and formats emerging frequently. Um, as a creator, you need to be ready to adapt to these changes. Open your mouth, puppy. If you got a dog that's backwards sneezing like that, all you gotta do is open their mouth and then they quit doing it. As a content creator, you need to be ready to adapt these changes, learn how to use the platforms, and create content that fits into those formats. Understanding the language and customs of each platform will also help you to engage better with your audience. And as I'm thinking more critically at it as I'm reading that, then you can bypass all of that by having a goal and then utilizing, what's the word, collaborations and partnerships. So you just find people that are already doing all these things and work with them, instead of trying to master each of these platforms, right?
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, I mean, how many guests do we see on various podcasts and TV
Right.
shows and news stations, right? We don't see those guests having their own station or their own podcast. A lot of
Yeah,
times they
like
do.
a writer will come on to a
Right.
podcaster, a writer will go on
Right.
to a TV show, a writer will go be a guest on a blog or whatever. Yeah, right. And then the vice versa. The writer will talk about the TV show and all that kind of stuff. So you're using everybody's strengths for what they are. So the next one was demystifying the world of data analysis with advancements in tech and access to immense amount of data. This data, when analyzed correctly, can provide valuable insights into audience preferences, behaviors, and consumption patterns. Learning how to interpret this data and apply it to your strategy will become increasingly crucial. So, they're not just stating that it's a factor, but they're suggesting that robots suggesting it's going to become increasingly crucial. This may involve learning new analytical tools or collaborating with data specialists. So here they include collaboration or getting
Yeah.
data from source that knows what they're doing or whatever.
Well, first of
Utilizing
all,
experts. Go ahead.
first of all, analytic data is robot language, and of course they're going to preference their own robot language over,
That's true.
right? So,
Yeah.
the robots are being a little biased there, I think. Um, yeah, I think it's what's crucial when you talk about analytics is I see I see one of two. There's no in between. It's really an all or nothing game when you talk analytics. Um, you either just go through and you never really pay attention to it for the most part, or you nerd out way too heavily. I don't see very many people that can healthily. Yeah, I don't know what the word there. Anyway, in a healthy manner, uh, navigate between those two extreme points. Like most people are one or the other. It seems like, um, and the reason is, as the robot suggested there, um, you have to be looking at it the right stuff and know what it means and be looking at it from the right angle, and be looking at it for the right reasons, right? A lot of people go into their analytics and they're looking for problems, right? They're like, "Oh, I'm not getting very many views this month. I'm not getting very many followers or subs this month. I wonder what's wrong. The
In other words,
algorithm must be screwing me over."
they have unrealistic expectations, and they're looking for
Yeah,
their analytics to explain why they haven't
yeah,
achieved what they feel they should
and
have.
they're going in on an ex post facto basis. They perceive some type of issue, so they run into their analytics and they've never really studied them or understood them or monitored them before, and then they jump into them trying to find the cause of, or figure out through analytics the cause of whatever problem they perceive, because I say perceive because there may not even be a problem. And then a lot of times they will project that bias into the analytical data instead of going, wait a minute, I'm going to go here and I'm going to look for patterns that, and whatever they support, right? um a lot, and you can need to build up to that. So, and then I know a lot of people will do that. um they'll have an issue and they'll go back and they'll look at like 3 days of analytical data, and, oh, that's a smoking gun, look, YouTube is suppressing me or whatever. And it's like, um you're looking at 3 days of data and you've had a channel for 5 years. Like, no, you need a much larger sample than that. Sorry, but that's not the way that this works. Or they'll have a new video that they've dropped, and for whatever reason, it won't crack in their. And yes, I'm speaking more towards the YouTube platform, but this can apply for other things. But let's be honest, other things don't have near the analytical data at our disposal to utilize like YouTube. But they'll go in and they'll have a video that, like, over the course of 48 hours, let's say, because that's where it tracks in your YouTube studio. Over the course of 48 hours, it's not doing that well. And so they'll jump in and they'll start trying to figure things out. And it's like, you've got less than 2 days worth of data because the analytics always run behind. And you're not going to be able to do that. Like, you just need to let that video, I mean, move on, let that video cook, put a little pin in it, and in a couple of weeks come back and check it and see if there's something there. But you're not going to find anything. Anything that you find, you're going to be projecting, again, biases onto that data because there's not a large enough sample. So it gets real tricky, I guess, what I'm saying, when you work with analytics. And so, it's hard for people, like I said, to work within that medium space in between the two extremes. It's hard for people to work within those extremes because of that, because it's kind of overwhelming in a way.
So there's a bunch in this one, and I think I thought where you were going with this is when people look at data. Data is, and if you want to see a puppy in the dots, then you're going to see a puppy. If you want to see a carrot, you're going to see a carrot.
They're looking to the
But
data for an answer, right? Not to
right,
learn something. There's a
right, and
difference.
to what do you say, to confirm, right, your suspicion or whatever. And to be good at reading data, it's a art, or it's a science, or it's a skill, or whatever it is. It's a something that you attain after a time of doing it and looking at it analytically. Is that the right word? Like looking at it clinically, as opposed to
Yes, correct.
confirm whatever your things are. So that's a tough thing. And we often just see people who are, I'm not saying they're trying to flim flam me or something, but they're only going to look at the data either with their lack of awareness of it or their lack of information or like savvy about it, and they're going to essentially reconfirm what other people are confirming. Like, oh look, if you have a bad day and you look at your data and your data shows that the watch time is low, then it must be your watch time. So worry about your watch time in future videos. And in reality, it was the 4th of July and no, everybody's skimming videos that day. There's some other factor that's just not part of it. So, have an experience on the clock. And then I guess I was going to also say, like you kind of said, you're talking YouTube applies to other platforms, but because of the night and day difference, the just massive contrast between the amount of info YouTube and all the YouTube clients give you versus Facebook or I don't know, whatever else is out there, TikTok, I guess, or Twitter or any of the other littler platforms. Some of them don't have anything. All you can do is look at like the number of views the thing gets, and who knows what a view is. You can sit there and hit your own video and watch the view count increase. So it's literally, a useless number. So you get the issue where once you go to a few platforms and discover the lack of or the uselessness of data, tracking analytics, then I think then you get a little, I don't want to say callous, but you get a little more, you understand that tracking analytics isn't the key to success. It's sometimes useful and it can help with certain things. It's a useful tool to have for diagnostics or for repair of something, but usually only for an issue if something goes off track. It's not necessarily how you're going to plan your trip. It's a nice tool to have in the toolbox, but it's not your roadmap. And I don't know if I'm being too cynical about it, but that's sort of the things that I.
No, you're not. I mean, so here's the thing: if you come out of the gate and you create 10 videos, and or let's use a bigger number. Let's say because a lot of creator gurus are going to tell you you got to create at least 100 before you're going to have any chance of getting any kind of traction. So let's take that number of 100. So you come out of the gate, you create 100 videos. Obviously, you've got analytic data, you got everything else. Now, out of that 100 videos, how many videos, and again, it's being clinical, it's being objective. How many of those videos suck, right? So if your last 5 videos, 10 videos are absolutely horrible, the lighting, the sound, the value proposition, all the things we talked about before that make a decent video, they suck, right? Well, there's no contrast when you start looking across the analytical data of those videos going, well, why didn't these videos get traction? Well, the analytics are going to all be pretty much equal. There's not going to be any anomalies there. Why? Because they all suck. So again, you need that larger sample. And so it gets even worse as you can, imagine on a smaller scale. So if we're talking like my last 3 videos have done horrible, what's going on? Well, the problem is it's only 3 videos. So what you got to do is you've got to compare those 3. I don't know what's wrong with YouTube lately because my last 3 videos ain't done very good. Well, maybe your last 3 videos sucked, and it's tough to admit that and look at that. But that's one of the first signs of getting help with a problem is admitting that you've got a problem. And everybody makes crappy videos. Was going through some backlog stuff of my early videos. If you were following on the CloverTech channel, the community tab, I even shared a few that absolutely cringeworthy, horrible video, horrible audio, horrible everything, right? And it made me appreciate the fact that even my bad videos nowadays are better than the bad videos of old. Like I said, it's on a scale, and so you've got to have that sample size in order to figure that out.
And then I'm going to say again, and then other platforms to compare against. So, you put something up on one platform, you put the same or, another similar text or content or whatever concept on another platform, and they perform differently. You start to learn that, more. And all right, so I've asked the audience out there what their opinion is of today's topic. Are they future proofing their content, and is it even necessary? So I got one answer so far, but I'm not sure if we've got a dud topic today, or if it's just a bad day because it's Amazon Prime. Everybody's over priming it up.
Everybody's shopping, yeah. Well,
So
Gizzard's got a good point out there to this when we talk about from the angle I was coming at, which was the content angle. And he says some content can be future proof, but by nature of what we do, a lot of it is time sensitive, new product announcement events, etc. So if you do, there's ways to word, title, and what am I getting at? Presentation. There are ways to present things that would be more conducive to a time sensitive thing. One of the things I refrain from, not because simply because of the niche we're in and the policies that govern that niche on the platform. Good Lord. That poor puppy needs some nasal decongestion. But just because, like I said, of the niche we're in, the nuances and the specific policies, I refrain from prices. But it's not just because of that, but because of like future proof things too. I also will interject certain dates and stuff in there too. Because a new product announcement can still hold value in the future, but you don't really want somebody clicking on that video, especially if it's one that continues to gain traction, right? It continues to have upward momentum as far as getting views and stuff like that. It may be a good idea, even if you haven't thought about the presentation and the actual video, the content itself, to try to tweak your language and other things to make it a little more evergreen. Maybe a good idea to tweak on the title and the thumbnail a little bit, because those are things that you can do after the fact. Um, because very rarely do viewers look at a description. Very rarely do they look at a date. That very rarely do they look at anything below the title. That's it. And so by having some indication of that in a thumbnail, in a title, or in the context itself, the three main things that viewers are going to look at, um, that can help with that. Now, is it a product notification that or product announcement like Gizzard's talking about that you made, and it got a few views, and then it completely has leveled off for months and months and months? Well, at that point, just leave it, right? I mean, I wouldn't put a lot of thought or effort or anything into tweaking that and quote unquote future proofing something like that, because it's pretty much flatline. Um, the odds of that catching a bump and then progressively gaining views long term once it's flatlined, fairly slim, I would say. So, uh, just not um, a good use of your time, I guess, your time and your resources.
So what I'm reading Gizzards is thing here. It says some content can be future proof, but the nature of what we do, a lot of it is time sensitive, events and stuff. I don't know so much about the product stuff, but I think that applies there. But for the events, correct. There's the lead up to the events and the help that we can be to promote and get the word out and create awareness and some interest in the event before the event. And then, of course, not enough people take advantage of the live streaming of the event, the actual presentation of the event as it's happening, which is completely raw. And think about how valuable it is to watch World War II footage versus some documentary or a docudrama about the war, or some kind of fiction about with the gist of the war is back in the background. Like seeing the actual stuff has a massive value, and most of us don't see immediate return from it, so we don't value it. But that's immensely valuable for the future. So if we're future proofing, are we building stuff today that's going to have value in the future, or are we building stuff today that's going to be the wrappers of the stuff that has value in the future? So there's that layer to the events, but then there's the after the events. Now I personally have probably more interest in this because I do I have an interest in personal interest in going back and finding the pieces of history and trying to post those so that we remember them, and do kind of some kind of infographics and stuff. I personally enjoy that, and our subscribers literally are paying for that to happen. So I have an incentive, I have an interest to go kind of create awareness of things that we've hit, and I can't do that without somebody having documented it at the time. And again, even huge events like the NRA show, good luck trying to figure out the dates. I haven't even been able to. I probably could spend more time. I just stopped at some point. But if I go backwards, when I was doing the NRA show, the SHOT Show, um, any of the large annual shows, when I wanted to figure out what locations the shows were at, because they travel each year, it was not possible because the internet wasn't around, and the world's newspapers aren't on the internet that I'm aware of without subscription costs or something. So you just can't search for some of this data from like the 70s and 80s. Once you get to the 2000s, everything's available. It might take a little bit more time. So when we're about to talk about long tail versus trends, but uh, future proofing is making yourself useful in the future as well as the present, right? Or maybe even the future. If you're about to, if you're leading up to a show that you're going to, cover at an event or something, you're allowed to start getting ready for that now. If you're going to be at SHOT Show and you're going to be doing something live, you're allowed to start talking about that now. You're allowed to create hype and let people know it's going to be worth their effort to leave some holes in their schedule so that they can watch your live events during SHOT Show, which people are going to have to plan for if they're during the day, right? Or in the evenings at SHOT Show or whatever. Like, you're allowed to plan for that. If you're going to be at Wanamaker, you're allowed to start planning for that ahead of time. You're allowed to talk about that after. Just because people today are used to seeing what's on the newsstand and then throwing that away and waiting in anticipation for tomorrow's newspaper to hit the stands, that's not everybody. There's a whole bunch of people that don't read the newspaper that would laugh at that whole mentality, that wait for the book to come out. So they don't care about nothing until some author tells them, and then it becomes important to them, right? And then it goes on the bookshelf and it's sacred. And again, some people would laugh at that because they're waiting for somebody to give them the gist of it in a video, and they laugh at anybody who would waste it. So everybody's got their own impression of this stuff. What you want to do has value to somebody. Put it in front of the people that have value for you. And I guess I'm trying to suggest, think about what the future might hold and what you're making for the future. You might not get gain out of it right now, but you may be leaving something for some shoulders for someone to stand on. And it might not, we care about Second Amendment, we care about gun stuff, but it might be the evolution of a motorcycle or a police car or, a guitar type of thing or some kind of switch or something for some electrical system. Like, all this stuff has interest in the future, and how we present it. Again, keywords, tools, our titles, and tags and stuff. We're talking long tail. So anyway, and I'm not saying these things are all going to pay off in any way, shape, or form, but when we're talking future proofing, I think that's a portion of it. And that just made me spin off on what Gizzard is saying here because of what Barbecue said here. So I don't know if you want to throw anything else on this before we go over to barbecues. Kind of went all over the place on that one.
Yeah,
But
just making sure that I guess that there's value and relevance to somebody watching days, weeks, months, years after that piece of content has been created. That's kind of where I'm coming from on with his future proofing and what means. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Does it still offer value and relevance?
and then I don't know. Let's see. We're talking data analysis here. We had talked about,
Because it's worthless otherwise. If you're going to put out a piece of content that it has zero data and relevance, okay, then if that piece of content is, we'll frame a reminder again, right? I'm trying to think. Let's say there's an event coming up. It's a small event, maybe some kind of personal thing, maybe it's a personal announcement on the channel or something. After a certain while, like, the core of your audience is going to see that, your viewership, your followers, whatever, are going to see that within a fairly small frame of time, a week or two, like most. Like, after that, depending on what that piece of content is, if that holds no significance or offers no value to people way in the future, then what's the point of it even being there? I mean, it's muddying down the rest of the content, and the vast majority of people in the present that do not care, right? Does that turn them away from your content because it seems weird? It seems out of place. So in that sense, it may be worth unlisting it, right? Or
Possibly,
turning it private or
if it's
something.
got a similar title, so it's like duping people into clicking on it, so they're like, "Dang it, this isn't what I expected." But if it's obviously like, I'm talking about ice cream, I'm talking about ice cream. Here's a cupcake. I'm talking about ice cream again. Then people can ignore it and just not care. But I don't think too many people in 2023 go, "Oh, I like this new channel I found. Let me go hit play and watch all their videos in order and judge the channel on that." I mean, if they're doing that, they're a shift worker or they're driving or something where
Mhm.
they just value having a lot of stuff to listen to, and they may just like anything. You're going to like
Oh,
some
I
songs from
agree.
an artist, and you're not going to like some. But if you're
I agree, but
talking just from analytics and data and stuff, I guess I can understand why you'd get rid of some of the dead
yeah.
weight.
Well, you're looking at two issues there. You're looking at the robot issue, right?
Like
And
when the robot looks at every keyword and everything you do, and a
mhm,
portion of it is kind of a waste of time. There's some advantage to getting
yep,
rid of the
yep,
extra.
the dead weight, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also for those, the robot also, I guess the robot plays into everything, right? It runs our lives, but the robot also is going to look at viewer habits. And so if it's putting that video out, it goes, oh, well, if it's a one-off video, sure. But then it goes, oh, well, this person likes to watch content, has watched a bunch of stuff from this person, and it throws it out. And then that viewer doesn't click on it because of some one-off goofy thing from some random event 3 years ago, then can the algorithm trigger and go, oh, this viewer must not want to watch this person's content anymore.
No,
Right?
that's
I mean,
a good way to say it. Maybe a way
yeah.
to I'm thinking of it is if you're building your content, are you building doors to somebody else's thing? So that, hey, it's not in my area, but it's a door to somebody else, or is it just a dead end? Like, hey, this isn't my thing, and then it's just a dead end with no value to anybody. That I'm sure the YouTube, anything that's any robot that wants the viewer to win is not going to want just dead ends that are like weird, you
Yeah.
know,
And you
doorways
don't
to
see it.
nowhere.
There's a reason if you watch YouTube videos now, and I still see a lot of people, especially in the firearm space, that are not utilizing this strategy, and I think it's bad. So for those out there listening, start employing this tactic seriously. So everybody knows, or you should know about end screens, where you have videos that pop up at the end of a video. Well, first of all, if you've had somebody that has watched the video that long to where they get to the end screen, obviously they have at least put up with your content, I guess. I don't want to say enjoyed, but they've at least put up with it. So because they've gotten that long and they're that invested, they are more likely to click on something in the end screen. So, but what happens, and I did this for the longest time because, um, and depending on the catalog of content that you have dictates how much you can play with end screens. But keep in mind the past catalog and videos you've got as you're producing, as you're creating the current video. And you're like, oh, snap, I've got a video that kind of relates to this. It's the same product, or it's the same brand, or it's the same model, or it's the same caliber, or whatever. And do that push at the end of your video to specific videos that you can throw up. So for example, if you're doing videos, let's say on some new revolver or something, um, and yes, I said new revolver. And you get to the end of the video, you can say, "Hey, if you enjoyed this video on this particular revolver, I've got some other cool revolver videos here on the channel, and I'll throw some up here for you to check out." Right? And then those pop up. So you're keeping that person attached. And we went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I just wanted to point out how powerful, important, specific direction at the end of a video to get somebody into another video, because that affects the algorithm, right? Every video in succession that a viewer is watching on your channel the more clout, the more power, the more consideration and everything you're building with the habits of that viewer, and the more content of yours that's going to be pushed to not only that viewer, but viewers that the algorithms see have a similar um, what is the word? A similar consumption, content consumption
Pattern, maybe.
pattern. Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly.
And then I suppose since we're talking strategy, when you think about all that and you're applying all this to what you're doing, there's a tendency to apply what we hear to what we do, and not, at least for me, and I think a lot of people, there's not necessarily the inclination to hear some of this stuff and then reevaluate your existing strategy to see if, instead of trying to bend the goal to your strategy, you're like, oh, well, I'm almost hitting the target, to just see if there's something you can do to just shift and start hitting the target every single time. I'll put up the announcement that after the show, again, we're going to be talking about Amazon, working with Amazon, making videos and doing stuff
Making
to earn
billions,
income over there.
making billions of dollars.
And so if you'd like to chat
Hy-
about that
Hype it
stuff,
up, hype it up like all the gurus do, right? Hey, you want to learn how to make $5,000 a month on Amazon with my no frills plan? Join us in the after chat. Right.
so feel free to let us know and somewhere, and we'll send out links. Barbecue had the point before because he got in here late. Future proofing means what? I showed up late. So we talked about the robot's definition, I guess, or at least the angle the robot went with it, with the awareness of platforms and evolving formats, the importance of understanding data analysis, and then we didn't hit it yet, but a focus on authenticity and value, and that being, those three elements being a way to future proof your content. And we've been, I don't know, kind of going off on some other tangents, I suppose, or taking those in directions. But did we ever define what future proofing means, or is there a definition?
Well, I mean, I gave my definition earlier, so.
Okay.
Real quick, if I can, I know it doesn't look like you have it starred, but Jeff said, well, I was talking about with end screens earlier. You said, but those mentions of other content are likely platform dependent, i.e., they'll only get the links presented to it on YouTube. So I obviously upload to a lot of different platforms, and I upload the same exact video. I don't cut
This
or
one?
redo. Yeah, I don't redo anything. Here's what I found with that. Again, it goes back to what I first said when I started talking about those end screens. The only people that see those end screens are the really engaged people that have enjoyed that content.
What are you doing?
So even on another platform, yes, once they get there, they're not going to pop up. But folks, for the most part, if they're on an alternative video platform, they're aware YouTube exists because they're on that alternative platform because they don't want to be on YouTube, right? And so they understand that, oh, this was probably uploaded to YouTube. It's just a given thing. And so one of two things are going to happen. I don't think it's going to turn them off from ever watching your content again. I have not seen any indications of that. But one thing that it can do is provoke them to do a search on your channel or click the channel name and go find the other video on that other platform. I have seen those types of things happen. So I don't think it has a drawback, and not at least not a significant enough drawback for me not to employ that tactic on YouTube.
Sorry, little dude came out of the hallway looking at me with a look that he was doing something, and I had like every single door open in the hallway, so I had to go down there and verify what was going on. So I missed everything you just said there. I probably agree with that.
No, I was just saying that I'll reiterate. That's fine. I was saying that I don't see any negatives outweighing positives. Meaning that if somebody has watched so long that they're getting to the last 20 seconds of your video, then odds are they're if there's no video there for them to click, first of all, they're on an alternative platform. YouTube is the big dog. So they're probably on the alternative platform, not because they don't know YouTube exists. They're on the other platform because they don't want to be on YouTube. So they go, oh, well, this was made for YouTube, right? And so one of a couple of things is going to happen. Either they're going to not worry about it, right? Or they're going to maybe hit your channel and look for other similar pieces of
Yeah,
content
it's
because you mentioned stuff
2023.
was there,
Nobody's
right?
like, well,
Yeah,
gosh, it's only on YouTube, so I'm on whatever, so I'm not going to be able
yeah.
to find it. Yeah, they're
Um,
either going to know already or already paid them. Yeah.
but when I get thousands of views on YouTube and I get dozens of views on another platform, like I'm not catering to that crowd, and that for the most part that crowd understands that and they know why. So, like I said, the trade off of not doing that because I don't want it to look goofy or feel goofy on another platform. The trade off for me, there's not even a it's to me it's not even a discussion. I'm going to do that type of tactic on YouTube, and the chips will just fall where they may on the other platforms.
I don't think that to answer barbecue's question, I appreciate you summarizing it again. Thanks. I don't disagree. Yeah. So future proofing is probably a couple of things. I think that the biggest one is, or I think the easiest way to describe it is long tail versus trends. Although, like I was saying before, I think that there is value in reporting on things that are upcoming, things as they happen, which is super important, and then things after they've happened, because you get the lead up and the hype and the what's that other word, like the anticipation, because that can be pretty interesting, and then the event, and then the after. Obviously, the bigger the event, the more after there is, right? The bigger the splash it has, but the lack of splash, the number of people, you know, applauding or booing the splash or whatever happens, is all history. So I think that future proofing is either creating stuff that's current, understanding that there's more than just the temporary, current audience watching it. You could be the one that lasts a long time. We were looking at photographs from the olden days. How are we looking at those particular photographs? Some of them just are happened to be in somebody's closet or something, but a bunch of them were because that photographer made sure that that photograph was in a newspaper, and that photograph, because it was in the newspaper, it was put into some bar or museum or post office, or some place that it got kept in a frame. So there's things that we can do to our throwaway content that keep it forever, and that doesn't necessarily mean big payoff, but it can make it useful for people in the future. And then the other side of that, or the other, the long tail side of it, future proofing your content, create content that people are going to want to watch for a long time. So if you're making content that's maybe your art or your music or your opinion, that isn't necessarily not long tail. I mean, it depends. You don't have to be uh, you could be the only person that puts it out there, and you're the only person that people are going to have in the future. You don't have to be the biggest
Yeah.
or the brightest or the most or the largest or anything. You can just be the one who decided to do it. And often we're looking at photographs and recordings and things, not of the biggest or the best. Sometimes we have those paparazzi pictures of those people
Well,
preserved, but we also are, just stuff that was in somebody decided to record something, somebody decided to have an interest in photography and kept those photos, and they're
right.
still around. So to some extent, I think future proofing can be done in multiple ways, but
Yeah.
is it a
Well,
either
for the
you're going for the success in fame or future proofing, or can it be both?
I think it can be both, and I
Yeah,
think that
I think it doesn't hurt either one either. It's just a matter of if you
yeah, it
decide
doesn't.
to apply this layer to your content, right?
Yeah. So I think that kind of what you're talking about when you went back into more like vlogging or news related or something like that. An idea of future proof is are you evolving with the times, right? As your project and your channel, or are you stuck in, some type of a rut where you're still harping on things from 5 years ago and 10 years ago or something, right? Um because that could be a thing. Like if you're just like you get on and you give your experiences and your opinions and what happened today and what that type of thing, right? Or you're talking about news related subjects. Um, for somebody to hit that video and they go, "Oh, they're talking about whatever event happened 2 or 3 years ago," right? Um, and maybe they enjoy your presentation, right? They enjoy the on-camera presence. They're enjoying the video, even though what you're talking about was 3 years ago. Well, it may prompt them to go, I wonder if they got anything new, right? Then they look at the date or they remember that, oh, they're talking about something 3 years ago. I wonder if they have anything new. They click your channel, then they start consuming your new content, right? Because they like the way that you approach and you present whatever it might be. So that could be an issue where it's more like by future proofing your brand, your entire channel, your project by making sure that everything evolves consistently with time and with what's going on in relation to whatever things you're talking about, I guess. Because it's hard to give. We're talking generics here, right? It's hard to cut it down. I mean, is it news? Is it politics? Is it is it diet? Is it travel? Is it just daily routine? Is it devotional type stuff? Whatever. Um, but just make sure that you're evolving with the times. I think is and the um, I think the robots talked about that in the suggestions that they had given us.
I've been zapping links to everybody in Instagrams. I'm going to go to the, like, let's see, should we go to unapologetically arms? Is end screen something you can go back and edit after the fact?
Yeah, I answered her question out there in the on the chat, but short answer to that is yes.
Now you're talking end screens on the YouTube platform, but to clarify, you were also suggesting putting something in your content that alludes to the fact that you do more stuff out there so that you're not dependent on the in screen or the YouTube layer that gets added to your video, that once you remove your video and put it somewhere else, like on TikTok or Facebook, that's
Yeah.
not going to be there. You
Well,
want to have something literally in your video at the end that says, like, thanks for watching. We do appreciate you are here. If you want to subscribe to what we do, we have Patreon or channel
yeah,
memberships, and also we have a catalog of videos on our website.
yeah. They're called calls to action, right? Yeah, there's a few theories. There's a few trains of thought on the whole end screen idea. First of all, just throwing random videos up at the end of a video is not proper use of end screens. There needs to be that call to action and that push. And then by doing that, kind of gets into what Jeff was saying out there earlier, talking about alt platforms. But by doing the verbal push, by saying, and especially by keeping it generic, that plays into what um, um, unapologetically armed was kind of getting out there. Um, but by saying something like the example I gave is you making your video, it's a revolver video. You say, hey, if you enjoyed this video, we got other revolver videos here on the channel that I'm sure you'll enjoy. I got a couple of them, right here for you right here. Um, it's generic, but it's specific to the content. It's relevant to the video they just watched, but yet it's generic enough that you can change those videos later on. So, if you've got, a newer revolver, the newest revolver video, and you want to change it out from one that was a year ago or months ago or whatever, you can switch those end screens around and play around with those a little more than if it was a hardened push. Like, hey, if you enjoyed this revolver video, I've got a video on a Smith and Wesson Model 10 something, blah blah blah. Well, that's going to be a very specific video, and you don't have any flexibility in that. So, um, then the verbal push at the end. Um, End screens, and this is all across YouTube, especially, but end screens just have not been proven to work great without some type of a verbal push to go along with them. Um, like, why should they click on that video? Well, because if you enjoyed this one, these videos are similar to what you just watched, and you're telling them that. You're not just throwing something up on the screen. And so that verbal push also, when it gets into alt platforms that do not have end screens, at least you're letting people know that you have other content on the channel. Or as G said, you can use that opportunity to, and you can push to Patreon in an end screen. You can push to your website from an end screen. You can push to a lot of different things from your end screen. So it's not just specific to videos. So as G pointed out, keep in mind you can use that in that end screen in many different ways. I just encourage you to nail down and use other platforms be damn. I encourage you to use the verbal push anytime that you're using end screens. Yeah, She-Fire says that she always forgets the verbal mention at the end related to end screens. It takes getting used to. You have to, you know, bullet point or script out your stuff. And a lot of people just, they create a video, they talk off the cuff. I do too. But I usually do.
GearWebsites.com is your source.
Get one of those, and then you just push the button. If
Yeah.
you remember.
Well, this is true. But I usually, if you're live, yeah, you can do that. But I usually put out at least bullet points. Like,
Well,
hey,
you can. I edit those on the end of my videos. I don't, and I usually
like
just
this is
say
my
thanks.
opening. Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, well, it's hard to do. It's hard to do it with your thing if you're pushing to a static deal all the time. That's fine, G. Go visit the store, become Patreon. If you're trying to push to other videos, get more views, more and grow a channel,
yeah, you'd
then
have to do something more generic.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we
yeah,
have
yeah.
a list of all of our videos, or go check out what's new on our list, or something.
And that would be way too generic. You couldn't
Yeah.
say, "Hey, if
Well,
you
I
enjoyed
guess you
this
could point
revolver
to a
video."
couple of specific thumbnails. Like we got a lot of videos. Go check out our revolver playlist or something. But yeah,
Yeah, if you did different ones for like different subcategories, right?
right.
Had at least
But you're
some
still talking
specificity.
work and effort.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
there. But it's possible.
It's and when you can just train yourself to do that every video, right? And it's not that difficult to get yourself in a mode. Like there's parts in my videos that anybody that's watched mine, I mean, I say the same things over and over and over and over and over every video, and there's a reason. It's because I've said them over and over and over and over every video. So once you get in the mindset, and like I said, having an outline, oh, here's my opening, going to welcome people in, going to talk about these features. I'm going to shoot and do this. I'm going to shoot and do that. I'm going to go back and talk about this, and I'm going to close, and I want to push to these type of end screens. And it's just 5, 6, whatever it might be, little bullet points um, on a piece of paper. And then when you go film, I mean, it's right there. It's going to remind you. And then after you do that 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 times, you won't even need the bullet points on it anymore, right? You can just, or the outline. You'll just fly through, and at the end, you'll close that thing out. And you'll go, hey, if you enjoyed this content, we got more on the content that we just talked about. And I got some of this right here for you, right here, blah, blah, blah. Bam, we're gone.
All right. So let's get to, just for the sake of we're getting into an hour or whatever, some of the other comments that came up. Gear report, future proofing by protecting your process from AI. That's interesting. So AI is definitely going to be a thing in the future. You may not be using it, but that doesn't mean other people aren't going to start using it and be successful at different levels from it and apply it. And sort of like any evolution, right? Like you might not like the automobile, right? The whatever the first cars were, because you had a horse and a buggy, but at some point you didn't get to drive your horse and buggy on the streets no more.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, definitely, what's that called? A disrupting element to the future. It's going to be hard to anticipate how something that different and that available. It's not. I don't know, when interesting coding had become available in the past. The ability to do more interesting things on the internet, unless you had the ability to know how to do that or pay somebody that knew how to do it and understand what it can do, and then even know to ask somebody to do it. There was, I don't want to say barriers to entry, but there was like things that just weren't available to everybody because the people that had the ability to do it weren't even thinking about all the cool things they could do with it. They were just developing it, and then just scale and time and everything. It took time to implement. AI is essentially a different ball game. It's a lot like when printing went from uh, when we had personal printers, or what do you call them, printers on our personal computers, and the massive step when everyone can be involved in printing stuff. That's a big step. Probably an
Yeah.
issue for a whole other show, honestly, how to deal with
Imagine
AI
the
in
days
different ways.
come a long way to from instantaneous wireless printing of anything we want to print compared to having to set up a printing press. You know, a
Yeah,
long
right.
way. Yeah.
And oh, I want to get something across, but I don't have the ability to, or it would take too much effort. Now you can just get stuff
Oh
across,
my
and maybe I
God.
shouldn't have got that across. It was so easy.
From radio to maybe to, pirated radio to, maybe you could get on cable access, or something, to now we're talking live to, you know, potentially, millions and millions of people. So,
Speaking of millions of people, broadcasting to millions of people, Gizzard says some content can be future proof, but by nature of what we do, a lot of it is time sensitive. Oh, I think we already hit this one, right?
yeah, we did.
So thanks, Gizzard, for that one. Then Jeff is saying evergreen content is the holy grail, not hard to define, but very hard to get right. And
Yep.
that's right about when I was using that trending versus long tail versus the trends. So I don't know. Did we already hit this one, or?
We kind of did. Yeah, we kind of did.
I mean, essentially, that's what we've been saying this whole time. Like, not necessarily the key to being future proof, but certainly a way to be future proof is to have something that's interesting
Yeah.
throughout time or useful throughout time.
Well, we live in the now, right? And so it's hard because we live in the now. Um, it's hard to use language and think about the future when we're talking about something now. It's not natural. It really isn't. So I think that's where the getting it right comes into play.
Well, I look at it as depending on how long you're in this and how much you're doing, right? You're going to put down a video a week, you're going to put down a video a day, a video a month, right? You're going to be in it for a week, a year, or whatever. So everybody's going to have a certain amount of these data points. You put down some videos, you put down some Instagram posts. Maybe you're just commenting on other people's stuff, and that's a little different. You're not going to get real analytics from that. But assuming you're creating content, you're putting stuff down, you're going to have your recollection, your memory of the stuff that you put down, what you wanted to do and what actually happened, what you wanted it to do and what the result was, right? Like, do you want to double down on something that you didn't get right, or do you want to lick your wounds and never do that again type of thing? So you're using your analytics in some way or another. But once you start looking at the numbers, go into a tool like YouTube or whatever, and using the numbers to actually either chart or identify where you came from or where you're going, then that's where you see the trajectories or the lines. You start putting dots together, you start to see trends, and that's where um, I guess that's where I was going to say you can it becomes evident to some extent on if things go in this direction, at least, here's where I should put my next content down. And at the same time, okay, I know that my audience is interested in this based on views or based on comments or based on whatever it is you're using to measure. So I know my audience is interested in motorcycles, but I'm super passionate about trikes. And every once in a while, I'm going to talk about trikes, even though I know my audience isn't interested. So I'm not going to get too butthurt when my audience doesn't care about trikes.
Hmm.
And some of that
Right.
is just, able to keep your head in the game and your focus on what you want to do and what you're doing. And I think that's also how to strategize for future proof your content for long term. Is if you ain't there, your content ain't going to be there. You can
Right.
build content and hope that it stales forever, but you can also just be in the game for a long time. So coming up with a way to keep your mental health, in a realistic, not in a realistic place, then, or have your expectations in a realistic place, that can keep you in the game for the long term. Future proof your content by allowing you to keep doing content.
Right.
Anyway, kind of gone off on a tangent there, but we hit barbecues, I think. And then Gizzard says, I still have people watching old SHOT Show videos well after the fact. And I watch SHOT Show stuff from the 80s because it's cool. You get to see the cool stuff and the beginnings of things and the way people were dressed and the way people were behaving. You get to see SHOT Show. Super cool. In 20 years, yeah, there's going to be a lot more stuff, but how many of these channels are going to take their stuff down? How many platforms are going to say, we're out of business, and nobody backed up their SHOT Show stuff because it was temporary? How much of that SHOT Show stuff really is going to be around 10, 20 years from now? And when our grandkids are talking about SHOT Show, oh yeah, my great grandpa went to SHOT Show, blah blah blah. Let's go watch his videos or her videos.
Right.
Plus, I don't think things are as expirational as people think. People don't care where a video was taken when you're talking about how the knife works or how the backpack straps are.
Well, the vast majority of viewers, and this is true for YouTube, and I've got to assume it's fairly true for some other platforms as well. The vast majority of your viewers are not regular watchers or definitely not subscribers, and you want it to be that way because how do you get somebody that's already subscribed to subscribe to then grow your channel, right? So you want to be reaching out
Subscribe harder,
beyond
subscribe
your
even more.
you're right. You want to be able to reach. Yeah, you get them to become Patreons or channel members, I guess, but yeah, they can't subscribe harder. So like, and that there's not a metric for that or a vanity number for that. So obviously you want that reach. You want to be reaching, new people. And so, new people, that's another challenge is new people don't have that frame of reference. So, when you go into a video and you talk about things that happened in a video previously or happened on the channel previously, keep in mind the vast majority of people that are watching that video have no clue what you're talking about. They don't know who you are. They don't know what's going on, you know. Um, and so that's where, and I see that a lot through comments, and other creators may too, where it's very obvious that person has never been to my channel before by the comment. It's like, I always do this. Like this is a normal thing for me. Like you're acting like it's a big deal, one way or the other, where it's a troll or actually a good comment. And it's like, yeah, you're a new person. I can tell right away. Like, welcome to the channel. But they don't say, hey, I'm a new person. It's some other type of comment, but you can immediately tell, like, oh, you don't watch my stuff. So that's another challenge that you just keep in mind that you do face, and you do need to be paying attention to. You definitely want to make your loyal core audience welcome and make sure that they know they're appreciated and that sort of stuff. But at the same time, um, you need to keep in mind that when you're talking, you're predominantly talking to new people watching that video, not your static loyal audience.
And with that, Jeff is saying he doesn't think static. I think he means the static little thing that pops up on
Yeah,
YouTube, like the
and I
layer
couldn't
that pops
comment.
up has much value.
I don't know what channel he's on, but doesn't look like he was on the gun websites. I couldn't find him over there to reply. I was going to reply to him in the chat, but I tend to agree with that.
So, are
Anything
you
that's
rebroadcasting this on your channel?
no, but I don't see his chat on gun websites, so it's weird. But
Hmm.
and I'm not on live chat. Maybe I need to switch to live chat and I'll see it. But either way, and I can't comment for whatever reason here in StreamYard. It's probably just not set up because it's a different thing. Um, but yeah, I tend to agree that um, especially if you're talking about um, like I said, the ones that get to a certain point, if it's not different, if it's the same old thing, um, then that can definitely be problematic. It's the same as you see people will put this big stinger, this big intro, and I'm guilty. I used to do this a lot. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but on the Cloverjack channel over the last few weekends, I start out talking about stuff and then I put my little stinger in a little bit later on. Um, and I get into stuff considerably quicker than I used to. I used to have like a 30-second little intro where different people, creators and two-way people would, you know, hey, you're on the Clover Tech channel type stuff and whatever and all of that. Some of you out there's even done clips for that. and that was cool and all. But man, you've seen people just bail immediately when that ran. So keeping everything fresh, mixed up, different language, different visuals, keep things on the screen moving, um, that sort of thing. Over stock, um, stock B-roll that's every single video in the same place at the same time. Because they'll go, oh, this video, especially at the end of the video. Um, any indication that that video's over, bam, you'll see a drastic drop off, a hockey stick in your analytic graph. It'll drop off quick, and static things like Jeff's talking about. While I think they're better than nothing, don't get me wrong, um, are not optimal. Let's just say.
Well, I think I was going to say that when you're seeing those YouTube pop-ups, at least, and potentially, I think what you're talking about, but more when it has to be very convenient, that's the people that are surfing. Those are people that could care less about what you're doing. They just watched your video, and if they're just literally surfing and they're bored, waiting in line someplace or waiting for something or whatever they are bored, they're just going to click on whatever is easy, or they're going to see whatever comes next. So, having that YouTube layer where you get the couple of options,
Yeah.
uh, I can see where that's useful. But I mean, that's again numbers and how many people are like that, and how many people like that on your channel, how many people are going to be like that on your channel
True.
in the future. Because whatever you're talking about, again, you're looking at your past performance, and you're thinking, okay, my past performance has been this, and that those dots connect and create a trend that I can anticipate it's going to go like this. But now go look at anybody who's ever been successful and ever shown their performance over time to get to their place of success,
Hmm.
and you're going to see that that is not a straight line, and it's definitely not
Correct.
a what's the word, exponential curve. It's going to be some kind of mountainscape looking up and down thing.
Yeah.
So
Gonna be an
yeah,
ebb and
so
flow.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So anyway, so I'm just saying, whatever you've done, okay, great, but you're not going to do that forever. So
That's
don't
right.
limit yourself to just because of what you've done. That's what you're going to have to do in the future. So give people
Well,
some options, and okay, I'd like to do 7 different things. I'm going to give people 3 different things, and get some feedback. I think She Fires had said something about asking people their opinion on. I don't think we even hit that one, did we?
probably not.
But
Oh yeah, you definitely
um,
need to pose questions to your audience. That helps with comment. That's proven to help with comment engagement.
or that was the last one. She Fire said I
Yep.
need to do better at asking questions about what my subscriber community would like to see. We'll need to post soon.
I
I
don't
think that. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't wanna hate on the loyal subscribers, but keep this in mind, sheepires. Your videos are seen by 3, 4 times, easily 5 times, 10 times as many people who are not subscribed as people who are subscribed. So while that does help keep you grounded, and that does your subscriber kind of helps keep you pointed subscribership, and especially Patreon patrons and channel members. Keep you on
Right. That's
task
why
and
I value those folks, because
oh
they
yeah, yeah,
care
yeah.
enough to
Keep
support
you
what you're doing. They're worth
yeah,
listening to. They're there for you. They're not there
yeah.
for what you're doing, not necessarily
They
for
can
just to be on board.
they can keep you on task and 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 pushed in the right direction. Um, they are not strictly in the sense of an audience, right? They are not the vast majority of your audience. Now you got to be careful because, as G pointed out,
Especially future
with
proof.
those
Your
that are
your audience
with
today is
those,
1,000, but you're going to grow
yeah,
to 100,000. What
yeah,
percentage of that's like listening to a tenth of
yeah.
your 1% about what you should be doing. So once you get to 100,000, you're not going to be talking about my new journey as
Now,
a new thing, right? You're going to be talking about something else.
yeah. Now, when I put a poll out, and it's really interesting, I can put a poll out, a general poll out on my community tab for everybody. Don't even have to be subscribed. To vote in to do, and then I can poll just my Patreon patrons and my YouTube channel members. And often when it comes to management things with the channel and stuff like that, I get, and this is where I know what I'm saying is right. I will get two totally separate answers or two totally separate consensuses, right? Usually when it comes to channel management type stuff, right? And there's a reason. It's because those random 80-90% of viewers, they don't care about me necessarily, and they don't really care about the channel or anything else. They're consumers. They're there to take. They're there to consume the content. That's it. They've got no other investment. Whereas the subscribers, whereas the channel members, whereas the Patreons have a little more investment. So their perceptions of what's going on the channel, their understanding, because they've got a catalog of work and everything else to go by, that is help them shaping their opinions and decisions and things like that. So just be careful. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying be careful that you understand who you're asking the questions to before you ask those questions, because the answer is going to depend on a lot of times what that demographic is.
Yeah, you ask, what should I do next to your grandma? She's going to say, show the dog more, show the kitten more. You ask to your friends from work, and they're going to say, do the thing that gets us to where we need to be next year so that we're strategically, in position to be better next year than we were this year. And then you ask the audience, and they're going to say, show us your boobs. So, you don't just listen to the numbers, because that's going to be usually garbage. And if you listen to too small or too narrow, right, then so.
The answer is usually somewhere in between. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I like the idea of listening to, I got your thing. I just have to wait till I'm not talking and I can send you the link now. You want to talk to people who are on the same wavelength as you and looking at the same goal as you. And that helps to have a goal, and it helps to let people know your goal. And then you get people around who want to also achieve that goal, see that you're one who's rallying people to get to that goal. And now you have people who are confidants, like you have allies. You don't just have supporters. Well, I don't want to say just have supporters, but again, supporters are there because I like revolvers, more revolver videos. I like shotguns. I want more shotgun videos. Then you've got people like, I want to see your channel be here next year. So, take these steps. All right. So I need to first grab the thing. I think what we'll do is I've been sending out some links. Once we have like 3 or 4 people back there, we'll end this thing, because we do have at least one more thing that will blow off maybe from the robot. But go ahead.
Before you pull the plug, I know She Fires is wrestling with a lot of stuff. We should be talking with her here. And by the way, anybody else that wants to chat about things, the invitation has been laid on the table. So just let us know and we'll get you a link. But she said, I struggle balancing new eyeballs with loyal subscriber community. I say this with all the love in the world. She knows I love her. Quit worrying about that. You're small enough and you're crushing content well enough. You just need to be cranking out videos at this point. Like, crank out the videos. All of that will line itself out. It will get easier. Don't let that hold you up.
Yeah, that's interesting. So maybe that would be an interesting show, or a attempt to try to map out the map of a progress of a content creator, because your sounds like you're talking about the you got to learn, you got to want to drive somewhere. You're going to have to decide you're going to learn how to drive instead of like get on an airplane or something. You're going to have to learn how to drive, get a car, and then get on the road. And on the other end of that thing, you're an experienced driver and you're ready to take on the next challenge, right? But at some point, you got to take those miles. You got to just get the experience. Is that where you're?
Done is better than none, baby. Yeah. And at this point, with her size and no more content than she's had out and all of the other things at play, yeah, just I know she's trying to figure out her way, and just do it. Like, I'm gonna rip off Nike. There's no other way, and they don't deserve that slogan nowadays anyway. Just do it. Literally, just turn on the camera and get the content done. You're doing good.
All you got to do is say, just get it done or something, and now you just sidestep them.
Yeah, well, I'll steal it from them. I don't care. They need it. They need stuff stolen from them anyway at this point. But yeah.
So the last part of it was focus on authenticity and value. The digital space is becoming more saturated. Audiences are becoming more discerning. They can easily discern authentic voices from those that are not. Therefore, focus on delivering genuine and valuable content is vital. This might mean honoring unique voice and perspective, or no, honing your unique voice and perspective, sharing your personal stories, or striving to provide content that truly helps or entertains your audience.
That
I think
that
that that's the place to
100%
start.
that 100% goes into sheep eyes and what we were just talking about. 100%. 100%. So it's a great. It's kind of weird how that worked out, but yeah, she's in a position that is unique as far as her voice and experience and other things. That's why I'm saying keep cranking out those videos. It'll line itself out because you're in a space where you have an authority, and you don't have to be an expert to have authority, but you're in a space that, and I'm speaking directly to her at this point, that you 100% have the authority for that space. So crank out the content, go with it. But
So, like I
yeah,
say, well, feel free to jump in if you're going to jump into the after chat where we're going to talk about the Amazon, what are we supposed to call it? Amazon influencer. So there's different layers of Amazon, and you can historically you've been able to make money by sending people over to Amazon, and if you do it the right way and everything, you get a little cut of when you send people over there, and it's always been very low cut. And they've been doing stuff recently that's changed that, and they've changed it. I think that's I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's been lucrative for some people, and it's been frustrating as hell for other people.
it's a lot of
But
work.
yeah, and it's
Everything
not
is.
they're not giving it away, but it
No,
is adjacent to what we're doing as YouTube people, as TikTokers, as Instagrammers, and as other platform and as other content creators. So if you are a content creator and you'd like some amount of extra income at this point, I'm comfortable saying that it's definitely at this point I'm comfortable saying that it's a possibility that you can create extra income with the ability to create a lot of extra income if you want to put the time into it, if you have the ability to put time into it,
there's a lot of
or
potential.
put some strategy into it. Yeah, a lot of potential. So we're not trying to do a course or a hard sell, but since it is something that is not quite something I can, I'm not going to stop everything and encourage everyone to jump into it, but it's really close to getting there. We're going to start talking about it a little bit more. So we're going to talk about that off air with people that are interested.
Yep.
And I don't know what happened. Gunpowder she was in there for a second. Feel free to jump in though. As I say, we'll just keep this live for a second. We're going to be here. So as soon as 2 or 3 people jump in, we'll end it. So anybody who's planning on jumping in, this is your cue to jump in. Otherwise, as far as this topic goes, what do you think? Did we cover enough of it? Future proof.
I think we did. I think we did. Um, we went full circle. I mean, we talked about the robots. We talked about the human element. We talked about, um, the individual creator side of things. We talked about the overall project. So we talked about the specific content. I think we covered a lot of ground. Ultimately, it was great closing out with Sheepfire's thing because ultimately, yeah, I mean, you got to get out there and make videos for any of this matters. That's the first thing. You started on a camera and making those videos. So, done is better than none. So, if you're trying to find your way and feel your way through, and I'm not real sure that I want to go this direction or that direction or whatever, don't stop making the videos while you're figuring that out. Continue to do it. Continue to crank out content because um, you don't want things like that holding you up. You don't want anything holding you up. Every video you make is experience, if nothing else, is experience in uploading and editing and thumbnails and tags and titles and descriptions and what am I thinking? Scripts and it gives you analytic data and there's many perks to just get the content out there. Um, and then, it's hard to improve if you don't have a catalog of things, and it's hard to figure out what you need to improve on. So, and that whether that's future proofing your content or just simply trying to grow your channel, got to have the videos out there first.
So I agree. I don't disagree, but I'm also going to throw out there that the future proofing is being aware that you're laying down content that isn't perishable. It doesn't have a lifespan that, just like on one of them movies where after 30 seconds it goes up in flames or something. You've got you can put stuff down and it don't have the expectation that you can get future results from stuff. I can definitely tell you after putting stuff down for decades now, stuff out of nowhere from the past will pop up, and that's given me the idea that, and this has happened over the years, so it's not like this recent event or anything, but I learned this lesson a long time ago and I've applied it, that you can lay things down that that are intended to pop up later or be I don't know, some kind of canary in the coal mine. You can, if you, Clover was talking about, if you've got different ideas or ideas of things you might want to do that are a little bit different than your norm, do those things. And those are indicators. Those can be points of data for you to, okay, I wanted to talk about revolvers, but my audience doesn't want to hear about it. But 6 months from now, I'll try it again and see what that audience thinks about it. Anyway, I was just getting the idea that, future proofing isn't just thinking about, again, what you're doing now or inspiration for now, but you're allowed to, part of that, getting videos down, maybe have some fun, make a bunch of videos that go backwards. And by the time you lay the last one down 6 months from now, there's something that encourages people to go backwards through your videos as like a treasure hunt or an Easter egg hunt or something, or maybe even to some other, anyway, you can have fun with stuff and play around it. She fires through $20 super chat. Thank you very much. That's an opportunity for me to say I did take a bunch of that super chat money that people have thrown in over the months now of doing this show and bought a bunch of stuff and then sent a bunch of it over to Clover. So he'll have it for projects. So Clover has gotten some actual tangible stuff from these super chats. So do appreciate it. And now he can appreciate it too on a whole nother level. Unapologetically Armed is saying hands full with the project, but I'm going to go ahead and send you a link anyway. So I think I can have enough people in here that you can listen. And if you're off air, are you hearing everything? You can hear off air. So if you want to just listen in, feel free. It's not necessarily, we're not going to do a presentation, but we're just going to be answering people's questions and stuff off air. You're more than welcome to be part of it. Well, anyway, I won't get into what would happen if the ladies of the DC project were making the kind of money I regularly talk to people on Amazon are making. It would be all, we wouldn't have an issue anymore. We'd be done. Plus, you know how much money they'd be making going to DC every month or every year. All right, we're not off air yet. I'll quit talking about that. Chris is out there. Just wrapped up. You want to jump in? Let us know. Barbecue is saying an after chat link. Yep, I'll throw you one over on the Instagrams. That's where I've been throwing them out there. And Gizzard already has a link. I think we'll wrap it up. We do have some people backstage already, so we won't keep people all day. That makes it about 90 minutes. Clover, what do you got coming up? You're muted. He doesn't have anything coming up.
Yeah, I'm muted. Not a lot. There'll be a video drop later today. Currently working on some logistical things. You were talking about planning out things. I think we were talking about that maybe earlier in the show, but planning out things actually for TriggerCon in September, Wanamaker in November, and SHOT Show in January already, with it being July. So it'll be new podcast season. Hopefully get all of that scheduled next month. That'll start in September. But just a quick FYI, the next couple of weekends, I think, or so, is going to be kind of weird. Got some personal days and things that I'll be taking. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm not real sure how content's going to pan out. So just keep that in mind.
Right on. So thanks again. I'll throw a commercial up for the show, and then we'll be back next week with one of the topics we kind of alluded to earlier.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.